Hello, Swiss chapter. What did you ask?
It's not my duty.
Breaking news. His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi to be recognized as the President of Uganda, confirmed and signed by the European Union. Okenda kumbuza tekitusobose batya video njikuletedde masa wate ambassador wa Uganda mu Europe naye abamuyise mu bwangu ddala wali mu parliament ya UE oba EU. Ogenda kumbuza video mu masa awo nzikuletedde naye nga tetunagendayo, nyongera okujjukiza video eno soko jimpereka like mumaze subscribing. It is a developing story na laba nankyukakyuka, making sure nti no wegatako mukutu gwaffe guno kubanga wano okaawo osanga information haliwe bati ate mu budde olunaku lwayo nga benkugambye His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi yandigwa mu bintu batya ate mulowooza n'omukulu amanyikiddwa nga Norbert Maute baamugobye nga tetunagendayo sokulaba video ye ng'agezaako okwetonda tumale tweyongereyo ne bya His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi okuyitibwa President wa Uganda mu EU.
To protect terms of human rights. This is his quote. I asked him, this is your quote. If we agree on that, you are brave enough to be specific and admit that during the campaigns of 2021 over 100 unarmed Ugandans, civilians, including Cheyune, Daniel, Frank, Senteza, Rita Nabukenya, Fabian Luka, have been killed by the Ugandan regime. Please answer yes or no. Yes, but he didn't answer yes or no. He said this is very important. These are the matters. And he said, and to know that the government was not okay with it, they dismissed the then leader of police. That's this. He mentioned the name, but I've forgotten that he was dismissed. Yes.
No one was dismissed, by the way. So that is a lie.
Said, this book, it was written by who? Nico. Yes, I know Nico. He's terrible. He's crazy. I know he's working for Bobby Wine, and Bobby Wine is working with such people, and they are really,
hooligans.
Yeah, they are really doing him bad, because by using such people, it's not the case. It's not going to be the president because of using such people like Nico. Yeah.
It's really horrible, how we expose the truth. Must be really painful for him.
No.
Hello, Marie, my best demonstrator of Switzerland and far away from Switzerland as well. You guys, you did a very good job. While you were outside demonstrating, your chair lady was inside. Can you imagine that she gave him this book? She confronted him on that tweet, right? The only time in the last 2 years that Mao actually spoke the truth. You know that tweet, right? When he said that the human rights situation in Uganda is stark naked. That one was read by your chair lady, and then he accepted the book. It is on video. I removed the audio because Mao wasn't saying anything useful. So why should people even listening to the nonsense that he has to say?
Nkugambye Dr. Nico wakukwata mpola era oba omukute mpola ofunamu bingi ebyokuyiga sokolabe ng'omukulu ambassador wa Uganda wali mu Belgium oba mu EU nga bamusamoninga okwapialinga mu parliament ya EU. Nkugambye Gen Muhoozi yamaze dda kutya. Alright, ate nga seerabidde Haji Haruna ayina byayisaawo soko muwulirize yoyo nno atubeererawo nnaku zino sokolabe.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yenze Haji Haruna omusomi w'edduwa asangibwe Bulumagi ku luguudo lw'Ejjinja nkola ku bintu ebyenjawulo ng'emuli endwadde zitawaanya abantu aba bulijjo. Nkola ku abo bonna abalina ebizibu mu mukwano. Bw'oba olina ebizibu mu mukwano jjangu gye ndi neeyo era nsobole okumalira ensonga. Nkola ku mikisa egy'emirimu, nkola ku abo abaagala okugenda ebweru, muntu nk'okozesebwa amajiini, okozesebwa saitwani, ebyo byonna mbikolako. Osobola okozesa ennamba z'olaba ku screen. oba kuweereza obubaka ku WhatsApp.
Story tonight. The European Parliament has summoned Uganda's ambassador to Brussels to respond to allegations of human rights violations during the 2026 elections. The meeting, scheduled for Monday, the 23rd of February 2026, that's next week, will also be attended by the leadership of the National Unity Platform. In response, the ruling National Resistance Movement said that having been on ground during the elections, it is important for the party to have an input into the matters raised by the National Unity Platform. NRM says they would like to have a copy of the response from Uganda's Ministry of Foreign Affairs for an input into a response to the European Parliament. Meanwhile, members of the European Parliament say they remain committed to supporting a peaceful and prosperous society in Uganda to work with all relevant stakeholders to achieve this. They called on the Ugandan Authority to guarantee the possibility of a safe return, physical integrity and freedom of movement for Robert Kyagulanyi, as well as to ensure due process and an independent investigation into the arbitrary arrest and detention of Dr. Sarah Birete, the Executive Director of Center for Constitutional Governance.
Alright, nkugambye His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi kuyitibwa President ebyadala bannatera okiteeka mu nkola era anytime from now bagenda tandika omuyita nga President of Uganda eri mu international community. Sokolabe engeri gye biyinza okusobokamu.
Saying that Bobi Wine should put president-elect is just totally nonsensical. What I objected to was that at the Geneva summit was also a lady that is the president-elect of Belarus. I agree on that. Just like Bobi Wine, she was rigged out of her election. And because the situation is the same, Bobi Wine should also be called president-elect. I object to the fact that Africa is continuously discriminated against. In the case of this opposition leader of Belarus, she has been invited by every single prime minister and minister of foreign affairs in Europe, whereas Bobi Wine hasn't been received by any of those. And I don't see the reason why Bobi Wine should put president-elect in his biography, in his profile text for Twitter. Of course he can, maybe he should. But what's the most important thing to realize is that being the president-elect means you have won elections. This is a very objective process where you count votes. Everybody can do that. Everybody can verify that. And what I am very angry about is that the international press refuses to go into the evidence of rigging, refuses to make their own tally, to refuse to address the Electoral Commission, whose website is even down at this very moment, hasn't published a tally, hasn't published a single declaration of results, and allows votes to be more than the number of registered voters. That is untrustworthy. And I wrote in my book, Rigged, in 2021, I explained how Bobi Wine won the elections. And journalists should be doing their job, should be counting the votes.
In the home of, Robert Kyagulanyi. Has a crime been committed there? These are things we are talking about. You can't have it. How can we claim we have a rule of the rule of law in Uganda when you can, armed soldiers can, or armed people in uniform, whether army or police, can just go and decide to create a military barracks in the home of a Ugandan citizen, even if he's the head of a political party. Even when we are doing investigations, you don't have those rights. And for how long do you cordon off if there's a crime, but there's no crime, but we have camped there because we are in leadership. These things must stop. For those who are in leadership, you are, it's a shame to all of us. Let's not continue shaming. If you have no shame, personally, Uganda has a name. Uganda has a name. Let's protect our name, because all of us, we can't just turn into Kenyans or Americans or whatever it is. There's a process if you are lucky, but as long as we haven't assumed the citizenship of another country, we are Ugandans. But we can't have this situation where there are laws on private property, and as lawyers, we need to find a creative way of going, putting pressure on some of these things to stop. If you contest in an election, that is a political contest.